The bright morning sun had barely risen when a sleek black limousine stopped in front of a tiny, weathered garage at the edge of town. Expensive executives stepped out one by one, covering their noses as they looked around the dusty building. Standing in the middle was a confident CEO who glanced at the faded sign above the entrance and laughed without hesitation. Looking directly at the humble single father working beneath an old sports car, she shook her head and called the entire garage trash. Mechanics nearby lowered their eyes in embarrassment, but the single dad simply smiled, wiped the grease from his hands, and returned to work without saying a single angry word. What nobody standing there realized was that within 6 months, the world's largest luxury car dealerships would be fighting one another for the chance to own that very garage. If you believe hard work, humility, and kindness always defeat arrogance, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more emotional stories that inspire hope. Caleb Morrison had spent the last 8 years raising his 10-year-old son, Noah, alone after losing his wife, Amelia, to a sudden illness. Every morning before sunrise, Caleb opened Morrison Auto Works, a small neighborhood garage filled with worn tools, faded walls, and loyal customers who trusted his honesty more than any luxury dealership. Money was never plentiful, but Caleb believed a father's greatest responsibility was teaching his son integrity instead of wealth. Noah often completed his homework on an old wooden desk in the corner while proudly watching his father repair engines that everyone else considered impossible to fix. Across the city, Victoria Langford had built Langford Prestige Motors into one of the nation's largest luxury automobile companies. Intelligent, ambitious, and respected by investors, she measured success through impressive showrooms, perfect branding, and record-breaking profits. When her advisors mentioned an old independent garage that had quietly solved mechanical problems even certified dealerships could not, Victoria agreed to inspect it herself. She expected to purchase the property cheaply and replace it with a modern service center. The moment she stepped inside, however, disappointment filled her face. She saw cracked concrete floors, second-hand equipment, shelves filled with carefully organized but aging tools, and a mechanic whose work clothes carried years of honest labor. Without understanding the story behind the building, she dismissed everything with a single careless word. Trash. Caleb heard her clearly. Instead of defending himself, he calmly finished repairing the customer's vehicle, handed over the keys, and wished the grateful family a safe journey home. That quiet dignity confused Victoria far more than any argument could have. She offered to buy the garage immediately, promising enough money for Caleb to retire comfortably. He politely declined, explaining that the garage was not simply a business. It was where he had rebuilt his life after unimaginable loss, where his son had grown up learning perseverance, and where every repaired engine represented another family safely returning home. Victoria left convinced she had met a stubborn man who refused to accept reality. But Caleb returned to work with the same peaceful determination that had carried him through every difficult year. Weeks later, something extraordinary happened. A rare European supercar worth millions of dollars broke down while traveling through the region. After several authorized luxury dealerships failed to identify the mysterious fault, the desperate owner reluctantly brought the vehicle to Morrison Auto Works. Caleb spent hours quietly examining the engine by hand before discovering a microscopic manufacturing defect hidden deep inside the fuel delivery system. His repair restored the vehicle perfectly. The amazed owner shared the story online. Within days, collectors, racing enthusiasts, and luxury vehicle owners from across the country began arriving at the tiny garage. Soon, impossible repairs became Caleb's specialty. Cars abandoned by leaked dealerships left Morrison Auto Works running like new. Luxury magazines published articles describing the mysterious mechanic who solved problems computers could not detect. Noah proudly watched his father become respected not because of advertising, but because of excellence earned through decades of experience. 6 months after calling the garage trash, Victoria received alarming reports. Some of the world's most prestigious luxury dealerships were competing to purchase Morrison Auto Works. Not because of the building. Because of the man inside it. The value of Caleb's small garage had multiplied beyond anything she had imagined. Determined to understand what she had missed, Victoria returned. This time she found a very different place. The old walls remained, The same worn toolbox stood beside Caleb's workbench. The coffee machine was still older than most employees. But customers now waited weeks for appointments, grateful simply to have Caleb inspect their vehicles. Standing quietly in the doorway, Victoria realized her greatest mistake. She had judged quality by appearance. She had confused luxury with excellence. Looking at Caleb, she sincerely apologized for the words she had spoken months earlier. Caleb accepted without hesitation. He explained that respect could never be built by expensive buildings alone. It was earned through honesty, consistency, and caring about people long before profits. As they talked, Noah walked into the garage carrying 2 sandwiches he had prepared for lunch. He proudly handed one to his father before offering the other to Victoria with a warm smile. That simple act of kindness touched her more deeply than any business meeting ever had. She finally understood why Morrison Auto Works had become priceless. Its greatest asset had never been the garage. It had always been the heart of the man who worked inside it. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes appearances can be deceiving, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more emotional stories about hope, family, and second chances. Special request. Comment: true value cannot be judged by appearances. As the golden afternoon sunlight reflected across the old garage sign, Victoria smiled while watching Caleb and Noah work side by side. She realized that the world's most valuable places are not always the biggest, newest, or most expensive. Sometimes, they are the places built with honest hands, unwavering character, and a heart that refuses to give up. The success of Morrison Auto Works spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Every bright morning, the narrow street outside Caleb Morrison's modest garage filled with vehicles that once would have seemed impossible to find in such an ordinary neighborhood. Hand-built Italian supercars, rare British classics, limited edition German performance models, and priceless vintage collectors' vehicles lined up beside old family sedans. Wealthy owners waited patiently beside hard-working teachers, delivery drivers, and retired mechanics because Caleb refused to treat anyone differently. Whether someone arrived in $1 million automobile or a 20-year-old pickup truck, every customer received the same respect, the same honesty, and the same careful workmanship. Luxury dealerships soon became frustrated. Their certified technicians could not understand why customers were choosing an aging neighborhood garage instead of expensive service centers. Several manufacturers quietly sent engineers to observe Caleb's methods, expecting to discover advanced equipment hidden somewhere inside the building. Instead, they found something much simpler. Caleb listened to every engine before opening the hood. He felt tiny vibrations with his fingertips, noticed sounds most people ignored, and relied on decades of practical experience that no computer could replace. Victoria Langford could not stop thinking about her first visit. The word she had spoken, trash, echoed in her mind every time she saw another article praising Morrison Auto Works. The embarrassment became even greater when several international luxury dealerships contacted Langford Prestige Motors asking whether her company had a partnership with Caleb. They assumed she had discovered his talent long before anyone else. She had to admit the truth. She had nearly destroyed the opportunity by judging him after only a few seconds. Meanwhile, Noah watched everything happening around his father with growing pride. One afternoon he asked why Caleb never increased his prices now that wealthy customers were willing to pay almost anything. Caleb smiled. He explained that trust takes years to earn and only moments to lose. If he began chasing money instead of helping people, the garage would become just another business. He wanted Noah to remember that success should never change a person's character. Those words stayed with the young boy. Weeks later, a major automotive exhibition announced a national competition for independent restoration specialists. Mechanics from across the country would compete by repairing an extremely rare prototype vehicle that had defeated experts for years. The winner would receive international recognition. Victoria encouraged Caleb to enter. At first, he politely refused. Competitions had never interested him. But Noah quietly reminded his father that sometimes accepting a challenge is not about proving yourself, it is about inspiring others who believe impossible dreams can come true. Caleb agreed. The day of the competition arrived beneath clear blue skies. Hundreds of spectators surrounded the enormous exhibition hall while journalists from around the world prepared their cameras. Famous engineers confidently presented expensive diagnostic equipment and advanced technology. Caleb arrived carrying the same old metal toolbox he had used for years. Some competitors laughed. Several whispered that he looked completely out of place. Victoria heard those comments and remembered the mistake she had made months earlier. This time, she said nothing. She simply watched. Because she had learned that appearances reveal very little about greatness. When the prototype engine finally roared to life under Caleb's careful hands, the entire hall fell silent. Even the judges stood in disbelief. But what happened immediately after his remarkable success would surprise everyone even more. Someone from Caleb's past walked through the exhibition doors. Someone who had once betrayed him when he needed loyalty the most. Bright morning sunlight poured through the glass ceiling of the National Automotive Innovation Center as hundreds of engineers, collectors, journalists, and business leaders surrounded the restored prototype vehicle. Only minutes earlier, Caleb Morrison had accomplished what the country's finest specialists had failed to do. The once silent engine now purred with perfect precision, and the audience erupted into applause. Yet Caleb showed no sign of pride. He simply closed his old metal toolbox, smiled at Noah, and quietly thanked the judges for the opportunity. To him, repairing the car had never been about winning a competition. It had been about proving that dedication, patience, and honesty still had a place in a world obsessed with appearances. Just as the ceremony was about to begin, the main doors slowly opened. A man stepped inside whose face Caleb recognized immediately. It was Leonard Hayes. Years earlier, Leonard had been Caleb's closest friend and business partner. Together they had dreamed of building the finest independent restoration garage in the country. But when a wealthy investor offered Leonard a chance to join a luxury automotive company, he accepted the offer and abandoned Caleb without warning. Before leaving, he mocked Caleb's old-fashioned methods and predicted that his tiny garage would never survive against modern dealerships. Seeing Leonard again brought back painful memories. But instead of anger, Caleb felt something unexpected. Peace. Leonard slowly approached him with tears in his eyes. He admitted that despite years of financial success, he had never experienced the respect and admiration Caleb earned through kindness alone. He confessed that walking away from their friendship had been the greatest mistake of his life. The crowded hall fell completely silent. Everyone expected Caleb to remind Leonard of the betrayal. Instead, he simply extended his hand. He explained that carrying resentment only makes the journey heavier. Life had already taught both of them enough lessons. There was no reason to continue living in the past. The audience responded with a standing ovation. Victoria Langford watched the moment with deep emotion. Months earlier she had called Caleb's garage trash because she judged it by cracked walls and worn tools. Now she realized that the most valuable workshop in the country had never been defined by its appearance. It had always been defined by the man inside it. A few weeks later, nearly every major luxury dealership submitted offers to purchase Morrison Auto Works. The amounts were so extraordinary that newspapers called them historic. Friends urged Caleb to sell immediately and retire with unimaginable wealth. He politely declined every offer. When reporters asked why, Caleb smiled and looked toward Noah. He explained that the garage was never built to become the most expensive workshop in the country. It was built so a father could provide an honest life for his son and help people who trusted him. No amount of money could replace those memories. Instead of selling, Caleb expanded the business in a completely different way. He opened the Morrison Academy of Craftsmanship, a training center where experienced mechanics mentored young apprentices free of charge. Students learned not only how to repair extraordinary vehicles but also how to treat every customer with dignity, patience, and honesty. Victoria became the Academy's largest supporter. She invested in modern equipment while insisting that the original garage remain exactly as it had always been. She wanted future generations to remember that greatness did not begin inside a luxurious showroom. It began inside a humble building that many people once dismissed. Years later, Noah graduated as one of the Academy's finest mechanics. Standing beside his father beneath the original faded garage sign, he thanked Caleb for teaching him the greatest lesson of his life. Not how to repair engines, but how to repair people's faith and kindness. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes true success is built through honesty and perseverance. leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more inspiring stories filled with hope and second chances. Special request. Comment. Character is worth more than appearance. As the golden afternoon sunlight reflected across the old garage that had once been called trash, Caleb quietly locked the workshop for the evening. Luxury dealerships still dreamed of owning the building, but they had all misunderstood one simple truth. The real treasure had never been the garage. It had always been the humble father whose integrity transformed an ordinary workshop into a place the entire world admired.